guys, Mackay here with Ironside Ranch, and today we're going to talk a little bit more about this beef shortage and the general meat shortage going on in our grocery stores right now. Okay, y'all, look at this. $32. $32. $11.49 a pound. This is ridiculous. You can get such better meat if you just went and talked to a local rancher. Okay, so we all understand the supply chain issues, and I'm sorry, I just went over some of this information on my interview with Economic Ninja. This is actually, in addition to that, we're going to share some of the numbers with you today. So I got my notes here. It's more fun to have the cows in the background, and hey, it's a farming channel right now, so you know, we're gonna allow them on here. Hope that's okay. They seem to enjoy the camera time. Recently, and I believe it was on Bloomberg News, and I couldn't find the article when I went back to look for it, so I'm going to try to find it. I'll put it down in the description if I can find it. But I think it was Bloomberg was reporting on shortages in schools because they're having trouble getting this food to these schools, and part of that's because they're using prepackaged crap, and they're using all this process, and the cooks don't actually cook anymore. They just reheat some goop in a bag, and so that's creating a lot of the problem. But the bigger issue is that these schools would be easy to fill if they just started going to their local producers and said, hey, we need 10 cows a month delivered to this butcher. We'll go and we'll send our cooks over there to go pick up the meat. And the schools would actually save money on it, and you provide healthier food for your staff or for your kids. But then again, we'd have to actually expect the school cooks to cook. And so that's, you know, we're seeing these shortages come up. And we go to the store, we see the shortages like in the clip I just showed you. We're seeing those shortages come in. So where are these shortages coming from? Because cows just didn't all of a sudden die off and nobody's raising cows anymore. And we heard horror stories about pig farmers butchering pigs or killing pigs and just burying them. And though that did happen, that was the exception, not the rule. We didn't see that in wide swath across the country. We just saw some farmers couldn't get rid of 3,000 pigs, and so they did that rather than paying to feed them. It was a better loss of their money. Personally, I think that's a stupid decision, but you know, it is what it is. Now, there's a processing shutdown that happened all throughout COVID, and so the processors shut down, and because of that, we started losing this and started creating this backlog. Then from there, we had a butcher shortage, where there's still currently a butcher shortage. All the custom cut processors, that's your local processors, and the processors that are doing like your deer and your meat handling and stuff like that. That's all them. They had a huge labor shortage. Nobody wants to be a butcher, even though there's actually good money in it. I think it'd be a great business model. I wish we had the time to go set up a butcher shop somewhere. I'd love to go into business with somebody and set up a butcher shop. I think it's a great business plan right now. So, but that butcher shortage has created more issues. Then you got the bigger processing plants. Those are the ones that are processing for the stores. Those plants are having trouble getting people in. So whereas certain plants could do 5,000 head of cow in a day, they're actually only able now to do 3,500 head of cow in a day. And then some of those cows are already promised, and they're promised to the big names like the Walmarts, the Fred Meyers, the Winn-Dixies, the Publix. They're promised to those big names, so the mom and pop shops have trouble getting them in. But the other thing that they're promised to that we're not taking into account is they're promised to things like Campbell's Chicken Soup, where Campbell's Chicken Soup has to have so much beef coming in so that they can make I'm sorry, not chicken soup, the Campbell's Soup, whatever. They have to have so much beef coming in so that they can handle that. So a lot of those 3,500 are already taken up by these contracts that they have to negotiate, or that they already have an obligation to. Also hurting that same thing is the cattle prices way down. So those same processors, those same processors are the ones that are really setting the cattle prices. And because they're setting the cattle prices so low, people aren't willing to sell. A lot of people are holding on to their cows. We don't sell to the auctions because of the cattle prices. Cattle prices go up, I'll happily sell my cows at the auction. But right now, we're not selling at the auction because the cattle prices suck. Why would I go there and I can barely make $125 a hundredweight, whereas if I sell it on the retail market, I'm making $3 a pound. I mean, that's a huge difference, a substantial difference. I make over twice as much selling at retail, and the customers then get their meat still cheaper than what they can purchase it from the store, even though we're a much higher quality beef, much higher quality pork, and much higher quality chicken. The meat is still generally cheaper, or at least comparable to what they're purchasing it in the store. You saw it on there. They're paying what, it's 7, 11, 15, 19 bucks a pound for steaks, depending on what cut they are. And yet all of ours, no matter what cut you get, you're going to pay around $7 a pound after processing. Now, granted, your ground beef is going to be $7 a pound, but then too, so is your T-bones and your ribeyes and your porterhouses. Those are going to be a lot cheaper as well. So it balances out, and we're substantially cheaper overall. So we got 4 big meat processors that run the show, right? You got Tyson, Cargill, JBS, and National Beef, right? All 4 of those guys, they make up about 80% of the retail cuts, and combined, they each have different market shares. Cargill in 2020 was up 20%, right? So 20% sales increase. They're making a killing over there. Cattle prices are down, so their costs are lower. They do have some higher costs that we have to anticipate in there because it's not all profit for them, right? Their higher costs are coming from having to pay more overtime, having to hire because they're not having people coming in. They have different COVID regulations to abide by, and then they've got FDA crap to deal with, where the FDA comes in there, and you have to pay a USDA inspector to come in there and check on the meat in the plant to make sure that it's USDA certified, and that USDA inspector has to be paid by the plant, and they're having shortages on USDA inspectors just as we are because the government shut down. So bigger problems there. That's a whole different discussion, but bottom line is it's not all profit for them. It's not that they're just being a bunch of greedy bastards, but there's still a lot of profit in there for them, and that their sales are drastically up. That's where the money's going. They're the only ones where they're showing their sales like that with their food is up that high. You look at Walmart and Amazon, their sales are up from people wanting to buy crap to sit around in COVID with, and because they have a little bit of stimulus money. All right, so we got causes of this. We got the coronavirus, obviously. We got the cyber attacks that were going on, right? So we had cyber attacks on the beef houses. I don't remember now which one it was, but we had a cyber attack on the beef. If somebody knows it, put that down in the comments. I don't remember. I didn't write it down in my notes, and guys, I need my notes. So you got cyber attack on the beef houses. We got labor shortages, and then we got this over-regulation where the USDA has to be involved in it. Why I can't just go to a butcher and buy food that's not regulated is beyond me. Sure, you want to have the USDA regulate certain foods and say that it's stamped and regulated, fine, but I still should be able to buy stuff that's not regulated. That bothers me. That bothers me that I can't go to a farmer, to a dairy farmer, and just buy unpasteurized milk. That's a bunch of crap, and that's a lack of freedom. All right. We got hay shortages as well, right? So there's up north we got a drought, down south we got a ton of rain, so nobody could cut hay. So we had hay shortages all over, so people are having trouble getting in their hay amounts for the winter time. So because of that, they're looking at it saying, hey, I may need to cull some of my herd because the hay shortage is going to cause me to have these issues going into the winter where I'm not going to be able to feed everybody. So because I've got to cull some herd, we've got a flood of them on the market of a bunch of cows, drives the cattle prices down even further because certain people are selling at a loss or break-even point just so that they don't have to feed those cows through the winter. That's part of the reason with the cattle issue, or with the cattle sales and the actual sale price being down. Now the sale price for cattle, I had it in here. All right, beef numbers. So inflation. You had beef numbers 20 to 30% and price of beef in the 1970s, and then from our average, I believe it's 4%. But in 2020 we had 10% inflation. 2021 we had 7% inflation, and the cattle prices are down $40 a hundredweight from 2015. Guys, that is huge. A 1,000-pound cow now went from $1,250, or went from $1,650 to $1,250. Doesn't sound like a lot when you're selling one individual cow, but realize cows are sold in big semi-containers, and those semi-containers are going to be 50,000-pound containers. It usually takes around 60 cows to get them there, but it's a 50,000-pound container that they're sold in. Okay, so that 50,000 pounds now went from 62,000, or went from 82,500 down to 62,500. So $20,000 loss per truckload. That's substantial for big farmers. It's substantial for those cow-calf operations out there that are breeding. That's substantial for anybody that's doing some finishing operations and selling direct. That's a huge number, and that's a major loss for it. And so the price of beef being down is ultimately what's affecting a lot of this stuff, and we're just on a backlog from 2015. Everything gets exacerbated with coronavirus, and then we get more exacerbation on it when we had the cyber attacks in there. Now we've got labor shortages. We're always dealing with over-regulation, so that's where all this is coming from. All right, what's coming? We know we got a cold winter coming. John Deere is on strike right now. I don't believe as of yesterday they'd come to an agreement yet. So what does that have to do with cattle? Well, because all the cattle ranchers are using the John Deere tractors, and it's becoming a huge issue. You don't think Kubota is watching to see what happens with John Deere? Because if the workers at John Deere get that deal, they're coming to Kubota next, they're coming to Kawasaki, they're coming to Coyote, they're going to all of them, and they're going to get the they're going to force those labor shortages in all of them. That's going to be a problem. It's going to cause problems with parts. It's going to make more downtime, cause prices to go up on hay and grain, and it's going to create a bunch of issues for us in the winter and after the winter. The next thing is we still got labor shortages. As long as the government keeps paying people to stay home, we're always going to have labor shortages. And the bottom line is nobody wants to be a butcher. Nobody has any desire to do that. I've never met a kid that said, hey, dream my whole life of growing up to be a butcher. It's a great way to make an income. It's a great job and it's got great potential, but nobody wants to do it. So guys, that should give you an idea. We're going into a bad winter, and I've heard the USDA, they just told me that we're going into an exceptionally warm winter, but then all the numbers, Farmer's Almanac and everything says we're going into a cold winter. So who the hell knows? Right now it looks like we're going into a dark winter because we've got lots of issues with the food shortages, still dealing with supply chain issues on the coast. So even that beef that we import is still going to be a problem. So make sure you're stocking up on just a little bit of food and taking care of that, but help out a local farmer and you'll get better quality beef. You'll get it a lot cheaper. Go to your local community, CSAs, see who's selling, and that should really get you taken care of. Guys, I really appreciate y'all watching. Thanks so much for you guys that came over from the Ninjas channel. Again, I'm overwhelmed with how many of you guys came over and supported this channel. It was just mind-blowing to see you guys come over. So he says it all the time, and he's 100% right. He has the best subscribers in the world. I appreciate y'all coming over because I do too. Y'all are wonderful, and we love y'all to death. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Please like us, share us on Facebook. All that stuff does really help us out. You know the deal. I think Amanda Lynn started her Instagram yesterday, so go over and check out her Instagram. I'll try to get the link down in the description below. Thanks for watching.